Hey crafty friends, welcome to Scrapary. Today I'm moving on to part 3 of my Mary Performance scrapbook layout. In the last 2 videos, I designed and cut all the pieces in Cricut Design Space, and now it's time to bring everything together by assembling the full layout. Let's get creative. Before gluing anything down, I started by laying out all my background pieces to get a good idea of how everything would look once assembled. This step is really helpful because it allows me to make any last-minute adjustments before committing with glue. Since there are several background layers, I wanted to make sure that they lined up evenly and had just the right amount of spacing between each one. The mix of red, white, and blue layers really adds a fun and festive feel to the page, and I love how the contrast makes each piece pop. Once I was happy with the placement, I moved on to more detailed elements, starting with Santa. This little guy was so intricate with all the tiny pieces I had to glue together. It took a bit of patience, but I love how he turned out. I started by layering his hat, face, and beard first, making sure each piece was aligned properly. Then I carefully glued on his mustache and rosy cheeks, which were such tiny details but really added so much character. I love how it gives him that classic jolly Santa look, like he's about to let out a big ho ho ho. As I was adding these little details, I kept thinking about how all these little tiny pieces come together to make such a big impact. Santa is definitely one of the most detailed elements in this whole layout, and I wanted to make sure every part of him looked polished and complete before moving on. His coat, belt, and boots were next, and I love how the contrast between the black and red really makes them stand out. The red of his suit is so bright and festive, and the black details give it that classic polished look that makes Santa instantly recognizable. With every tiny piece coming together, Santa was finally starting to look like himself. Even though I wasn't gluing him down just yet, I could already tell he was going to be such a fun focal point on the page. After Santa, I moved on to assembling the title. Just like with Santa, I didn't glue the title directly onto the page yet. I just focused on layering and assembling it. I love how this title brings in a mix of bold and elegant elements. The way the script style of Mary flows across the top adds a soft, festive feel. One of my favorite parts of this title is the way I used the slice tool in Cricut Design Space to cut the word performance out of the pink banner layer. I love this technique because it gives the title a built-in dimension, letting the white layer underneath peek through. It's such a simple but effective way to make the text feel more dynamic and layered without adding bulk. Next, I worked on the photo frames. Once the frames were ready, it was time to start actually gluing the layout together. I started with the background layers, gluing them down one by one, making sure each piece was aligned properly before moving on to the next. After the background was in place, I added the photo frames, making sure that they were securely attached so that they would hold the pictures in place. I wanted to take my time with this step to make sure everything was positioned just right. With those pieces set, it was finally time to start gluing down the title. Since I had already assembled it earlier, all I had to do was align it in the perfect spot and secure it to the page. I love how both Santa and the title bring the whole design together and make the layout feel festive and complete. Seeing them both in place really transforms the page, making it feel like a true winter wonderland filled with holiday cheer. The final step was adding the snowflakes. These were the last embellishments, and I love how they filled in the spaces without making them feel too crowded. And that's it. My Mary Performance scrapbook layout is officially complete. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Do you love adding layers and details to your scrapbook pages, or do you prefer a simpler design? If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, follow, and stay crafty.